So Valerie's a polymath by trade, CEO of Intelligence Story and Associate Professor of AI Strategy and Ethical AI Design at AI Vancity. Is that pronounced correctly,
That's
Valerie?
correct.
Ah, I got
That's
it right. A global AI expert, interactive design leader, cross-functional experience in business, government, and academia. She holds a PhD from Sorbonne University, 2 certifications from MIT in AI strategy and machine learning, and is certified by IDF in VR and AR, virtual reality and augmented reality design. She's worked as a tenured associate professor of Chimera and interactive arts at the University of Montpellier, a government-appointed policy advisor. She's devised inclusive forward learning reforms and transferred high value technology into the public sector. She's based in San Francisco, where else, since 2015. She tells me she's considering a move to Milton Keynes, but still got a few things to be filed. Okay, she didn't say that, but she's led world-class teams in technology firms, healthcare, marketing agencies, servicing a portfolio of 20 plus Fortune 100 clients. She's an ethical advisor to organizations such as IEEE, Springer Nature in the UK, Women in AI in the USA, and an ambassador to the World AI Summit. Goodness me, Valerie.
Remind me to just share 3 lines next time.
No, share it all. It's incredible.
Much.
Valerie, I'm making you the co-host now. I couldn't do anything just now because the whole video was blocking out my screen, but you are a co-host now. I'm going to spotlight you here. The time is yours, and thank you so much for being here.
Okay. Wonderful. Can you all hear me well?
We can, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for this invitation. This group is a lot of fun, and I'm also learning a lot as I listen to all of you. So thank you so much. I'm super glad to be here today. So today I'm going to talk about what AI could look like in 2030, but I want to start with where we are at now, because I do believe that what will happen in 2030 will not happen out of the blue, out of nothing. It will be exactly what we do today. It will be a reflection of what we decide to do today with AI. And today, the companies with the largest market capitalization are all AI giants. But the power of AI, of course, will not remain the privilege of market leaders for long. AI tomorrow will serve every organization, every startup will innovate with AI. And just as electricity generated countless innovations, millions of intelligence applications tomorrow will create new opportunities. And this wave of innovation, of course, is going to bring novel ways to increase food security, promote gender equality, empower learners everywhere, foster climate change resiliency and biodiversity, and will also democratize precision medicine everywhere. So what we can see today is that from current applications of AI, we know that tomorrow AI will be an even more powerful partner to achieving goals such as the goals of United Nations, the Sustainable Development Goals. And our collaboration with intelligent machines really carry that potential, because by working with intelligent machine in a collaborative way, we can realize wisdom at scale. But to do that, we have to develop purposeful AI. And there is a famous quote that I thought about when I prepared this talk today. And that's a quote I'm sure you all know. And that quote is about the future, but it is also about today, about the present. That quote is from the science fiction novelist William Gibson. And he says, "The future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed." And of course, he's absolutely right in implying that future innovations are somehow intertwined with our present and likely with our past. And yet, innovation means the introduction of something radically new, like AI, for instance. But is AI an innovation? Is AI a revolution? Or is AI the culmination of an evolutionary process that actually began a long time ago? And in fact, as we all know, AI is already a 70-year-old technology, right? It's a technology that started to emerge as a computer science discipline in the mid-century. And the idea of autonomous and intelligent machines is also an ancient idea, and it goes far beyond 70 years ago. It's a concept that is actually millennia old. And in my research, I found that a lot of ancient mythologies are actually full of autonomous robots and intelligent devices that are the ancestors of current innovations. And after all, the first robot, for instance, was imagined by mythology. It was imagined thousands of years ago in the form of Talos, who was an autonomous bronze robot crafted by the god Hephaestus. In the 12th century, I think of the polymath Al-Jazari, who designed hundreds of automated devices that are in many ways the ancestors of today's home robots. And after him, Leonardo da Vinci built the first self-driving vehicle. And it's funny because earlier before this meeting, we chatted a little bit together about self-driving vehicles. And we're saying that it's very unlikely that the world will see self-driving vehicles everywhere in 2030, because it's very hard to develop and it's very complex for a machine to deal with the chaos of the world. And as you can see, this project is actually a very ancient project, since Leonardo da Vinci, like I was saying, was the first person who actually built the first self-driving vehicle. And the purpose of that little automated cart that the genius designed was to deliver vegetables to people throughout the city of Florence. Interestingly, 500 years later, Leonardo's invention was an inspiration for NASA, because the first robot sent to Mars was designed based on the blueprint of Leonardo's self-driving cart. So the history of autonomous and intelligent machines is old and interdisciplinary. And that's a point I would like to insist on, because it's very important to understand that AI is not the work of one person, and it's not the work of even 10 people, or it's not the work of a specific discipline. It is really a technology and a concept that comes from a lot of contributions over the world and throughout the course of time. And while it emerged as a computer science discipline in the 20th century, it actually spanned over millennia as an idea, as a concept. And that concept involved diverse minds from diverse disciplines, belonging to different cultures, located in various geographies. And we're thinking of the work of philosophers, theologians, storytellers, mathematicians, artists, computer scientists, and maybe every human on Earth at some point dreamt of intelligent and autonomous machines. And even what we call actually ambient intelligence, which is the network of 150 billion connected objects that will surround us in 2025. Ambient intelligence may well be the realization of animism, the most shared trait around, the most shared trait by ancient human cultures. So again, AI is not a revolution. It is the realization of an ancient idea explored by a diversity of stakeholders. And in the last 10 years, that idea, which was already a technology, really blossomed. We saw a lot of breakthroughs, and we saw an increasing rate of adoption and interest in AI. And that happened because the digital ecosystem reached a point of maturity that created the perfect storm for the evolution and the adoption of AI technology. The intensification of transaction between the virtual and physical spheres generated, as we know, an ocean of data. And let's just take, for instance, internet traffic from mobile phone. It has increased 60-fold in just a decade, which is amazing if you think about it. It's an increasing, it's an incredible increase, 60-fold in just a decade. And I would take, it would take, for instance, one person 181 million years to try to download all the data that exists on the internet today. And if you think of the data that exists throughout the world, well, 90% of the world's data was actually created in the last 2 years. So this data flood has fueled the performance of algorithms. It has improved them, although they are not fully reliable today, because that data, the data that is used to train algorithms, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, is not diverse and inclusive enough. It doesn't represent everybody in the world yet. However, that data flood really drove innovation with intelligent technologies. And there are other factors. There's more computing power today than ever, more in a single smartphone today than in all of NASA computers used to send man on the moon, which is incredible. Algorithms grew more sophisticated, especially with deep learning and reinforcement learning, which really boosted improvements in computer vision and natural language processing. And that trend is not going to stop, because as we move forward, and we will move forward toward 2030, we will see an exponential acceleration of the performance of those fields. Computer vision is only going to become better and better, and so is natural language processing. In the last 10 years, AI has also attracted large investments like never before. Just in 2019 alone, $26 billion were injected in AI startups. And we thought that during the pandemic that those investments were going to be fragilized, but that was not the case. AI startups just got more and more funding. So large investments really allow to dedicate efforts into the research and development of AI. And that is not going to decrease. This is only going to go up as we move forward in the future. But very importantly, and I don't think we talk enough about that, there was also a huge cultural shift that occurred in the last 10 years, and that will keep influencing what will happen in the next 10 years. And that cultural shift is that of the digital users' expectations. Today, we are all looking for applications that give us a lot of autonomy of use. We're obsessed with personalizing the services we're using. We want to gain insights on pretty much everything we do and get always more information and more intel and more connections with others through digital media. So we're looking for experiences that are really tightly intertwining the physical and the virtual spheres. So as you can see, all those factors really created, like I said earlier, the perfect storm to empower leading technology companies. And it enabled them to put AI at the core of their operations. And that's why today, the top 6 companies globally are Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google, Facebook, and Tencent. And all those companies are behind the largest investments and the largest breakthrough in AI. They are all multi-service platforms that derive tremendous value from AI and automation. And they leverage insights from centralized data. They enable agile experimentation. They deploy hundreds of AI-based applications, and they interconnect users and partners from various markets. That model is not going to go away anytime soon. Those platforms are only going to grow in larger networks of platforms. These platforms could do that, those brands could do that, because they are harnessing what I call the 4 strengths of AI: prediction, automation, autonomy, and human augmentation, in the sense of collaboration between machines and humans that can expand the human potential. That's what I call human augmentation here. So as a result, these platforms will grow exponentially in scale, scope, expertise, and learning. But it is very important to understand that creating value with AI in such a way is not the privilege of AI giants, because tomorrow every business will be powered by AI, and AI will augment human potential everywhere. Every person will live, learn, imagine, and create with AI. And as it makes its way into every home, every creation, and every mind, AI will not only influence every culture, it will also generate new cultures. Just as electricity ignited unprecedented innovations, AI will cast a new kind of light on the destiny of every of us. And as it gets cheaper, more accessible, pervasive, and powerful, of course, AI will also bring ethical and existential questions, and it already does. Questions that only a diverse, inclusive, and multidisciplinary community can tackle. And because the AI transformation is not just a technology transformation, it brings, of course, a lot of questions for us, because it is a human transformation. It's about the need to become a different kind of global village driven by the use of AI to solve the most pressing problems on Earth and off Earth. It's about becoming a different kind of society where ethics precedes and presides over innovation technology. And you know, I think that artificial intelligence, and here I'm going to talk about AGI that David Wood mentioned earlier, artificial general intelligence or advanced intelligence, a level of artificial intelligence that could meet the level of human intelligence, for instance. If one day this level of AI is ever created, I think it will deserve its name only if it embeds values professed by intelligence and pursues universally beneficial goals. And that's a difficult task. But as JFK said, we do these things because not because they're easy, but because they are hard. And there's no doubt in my mind that the development of unethical AI would lead to infinitely greater difficulties. So AI holds extraordinary opportunities, but it is entangled with the legacies of prejudice and inequality. And that's why I just mentioned the fact that if we develop unethical AI, an AI that is not ethically aligned with human values, we would run into greater and greater and greater difficulties. And we certainly don't want to do that. Data sets and algorithms can embed human bias and imperialistic views that nurtured inequality long before computers were even invented. So we must ask the right questions today, so tomorrow can be a safer and fairer world with AI, not despite AI. The future of AI and really depends actually on how we think about intelligence today, not in 2030, not in 2045, not further down the road. When I talk about the design of intelligence, which is a topic that I really like to talk about, what does it mean to be intelligent? What is intelligence? Intelligence has been poorly defined. And now we're talking about artificial intelligence, which is another kind of intelligence. When I talk about the design of intelligence, and particularly of artificial intelligence, I'm really talking about shifting our perspective on how we define intelligence and how we reconcile empathy, emotional life, shared values, and fundamental rights with the design of intelligent machines. AI technology will be deemed intelligent the day it can enter a shared world of meanings and generate meaningful value for all life on Earth. And the discipline of ethics aims precisely at fostering such value. And the growing field of AI ethics addresses the current and foreseeable risks associated with AI, so it can actually foster the benefits of AI throughout the future and in the present. One form of ethical risk associated with AI is that, on my opinion, is that of missing the opportunity to leverage AI to really drive tangible equity in the world. It is very important to address everything that is happening today in terms of risk associated with AI, such as algorithmic risk, misuse, weaponization of AI, authoritarian use of AI, and it is equally important to address also what I am suggesting here, address the risk of missing the opportunity to leverage AI to drive tangible equity in the world, equity among human beings, but also equity for all other sentient beings we share this planet with. So I know it's hard to make predictions about what AI will look like or will be like, or what our future with AI will be or feel like in 2030. It's hard, and as David Wood said earlier in his talk, breakthroughs are unpredictable, and most of the time prophecies get their timeline wrong. But I'm going to try a few things here. As we move toward 2030, AI will exponentially be more powerful, more accessible, omnipotent, and omnipresent. Computer vision and natural language processing will keep improving exponentially as machine learning methods will get more sophisticated. And here, I'm not taking any risk. Those things are highly predictable. I'm in the safe zone of prophecy here. Not too hard to predict, because we already see what those fields are capable of today. Just to give you an example, computer vision in terms of classification is already superior to the classification ability of the human eye, right? Because the error rate of computer vision in classification is 3%, the human eye is 5%. So we know that those fields are already incredibly performing and well, and they will only get better. Machine intelligence will invisibly pervade our reality through more intuitive interactions and interfaces, such as voice. And why not? Vision. Who knows? Every organization will be an AI organization and hopefully governed by regulations and AI ethics foundations. AI ethics is now absolutely unavoidable. It is a pillar for the strategic adoption and deployment of AI. There's not a single company today that can succeed with AI if that company doesn't have a strong AI ethics foundation. It is really, really core to succeeding with AI, and this will only grow as we have a bigger and bigger community addressing AI ethical issues and driving towards how to solve for them, and importantly, how to prevent them. In 2030, AI will automate everything, because everything that can be automated will be automated. Every decision that can be made by an intelligent machine will be made by an intelligent machine autonomously. And although, you know, such changes will not happen overnight, they will impact very profoundly companies, organizations, and workers. In the 50s, if you know, I'm thinking about a prophecy that went wrong, actually, time-wise, a prophecy that Marvin Minsky made. He said that it would take less than 20 years for AI to be able to do any work that humans can do. And clearly his timeline was off. But according to the World Economic Forum, by 2025, so halfway through 2030, AI will displace 85 million jobs and create 97 million new jobs across 26 countries. And we also know that by 2030, 50% of employees worldwide will need reskilling. That's a pretty big number. 50% of employees worldwide will need reskilling. And this is where we need to pay attention to the risk of inequity, because AI-generated jobs and wealth, as well as the opportunity for reskilling, will not be shared equally. The gender disparities that exist today in technology are really alarming, and they will be aggravated by automation. Access to digital literacy will be critical to empowering women in the AI economy, and we need to direct our efforts towards that. And I'm calling on entrepreneurs who can hear this talk to develop multilingual and culturally inclusive AI application to upskill women in digital and in AI, because we also have such a gender gap in AI. AI reskilling initiatives can really contribute to supporting regional AI voices, and that's also what we need to ensure that the development of AI is diverse and inclusive. Here's the other thing I want to talk about. Today's social media and service platforms, as we know them, which are those incredibly powerful platforms I've mentioned in the beginning of this talk, they will become much bigger than what we know today. They will become a multiverse of interconnected platforms, all powered by AI, right? So just picture that for a second. platforms as we know them today, social media as we know them today, they will become a multiverse of interconnected platforms powered by AI. The digital and physical spheres will become increasingly interdependent. And we will see AI-generated synthetic experiences that will create alternate realities that we will navigate for work, entertainment, insights, education, creative experimentation, and socialization. We will inhabit, literally, increasingly compelling virtual identities and communities. And from a creative perspective, what I foresee for 2030 is really the rise of highly personalizable and symbiotic virtual environment that will self-generate and evolve from learning directly from users' interactions. And all this will be possible because the force strength of AI that I've evoked earlier will fuel that type of innovation. And of course, if you think of those innovations in the future, you also think of the risk that those could of course, convey, the risk that we've observed today with the smaller platforms we are interacting with. So AI designers in the future, but today already, will need to ensure that relevancy is not replaced with immediacy, diversity with uniformity, choice with soft coercion, imagination with mindless response, and individual fulfillment with fruitless system interactions. That's very important. We don't want to reproduce the risks that we see today, the vulnerabilities that we see today in the future, because if we do, you can be sure they will be amplified in the future by more powerful technologies that will have the power to amplify everything. So let's keep that in mind. But the good news is that those platforms in the future will also draw a lot of potential for benevolence and beneficence. And I'm thinking of the opportunity to create empathy-driven learning environment, purposefully designed to amplify human potential. And that potential will also, of course, affect the way industries strategize, work, and manage their assets. Because in 2030, intelligent software will be layered onto the physical world via embarked and ambient intelligence. And ultimately, AI will really become our primary interface with the physical world. It will layer real-time insights onto every aspect of life. And I mentioned earlier that by 2025, there will be 150 billion sensors and devices connected to the Internet of Things in the world surrounding us. That is an enormous number, and it's probably actually below what will really be. The next stage of this is AIoT, the articulation between AI, automation, and the Internet of Things. And this form of ambient intelligence, it's called ambient intelligence, will become a standard in industrial management. And that means that in 2030, I can easily predict that intelligent digital twins will also develop exponentially. They are the cyber-physical model of an entity or a system. They already exist in some industries, but they are not as developed and as embedding of AI that there will be in 2030. They will be able to continuously reflect the physical and virtual state of a site and draw insights from locally captured data. They will give human teams the opportunity to collaborate more thoroughly with robots and with AI distributed intelligence in physical sites by monitoring them remotely and recalibrating systems remotely too. So that's a very, very important shift that is going to occur by 2030. And finally, the last two things I'd like to talk about as I'm coming closer to the conclusion of my talk is the fact that, of course, a very, very big contribution of AI between now and 2030 will be in the creation of a truly inclusive precision medicine that will be democratized. Not only this realm is going to be more and more regulated, but is going to also be more and more democratized. AI-powered real-time diagnostics and assistive software will enhance cheap and sophisticated medical devices, and it will democratize specialized medicine worldwide. We're already seeing that trend, and this will be accelerated by the evolution, especially of natural language processing, computer vision, deep learning, and any breakthrough, frankly, that can happen between the moments we're experiencing today and 2030. And this will also influence the way we actually approach assisted living and wellness in aging society. We're already seeing examples of that in countries like Japan, for instance. Intelligent robotics and AI assistants are going to proliferate in those sectors. We will see the deployment of specialized social robots that will primarily occur in the Far East, where artificial creatures interestingly benefit from a positive social status due to cultural legacies. I wish I had time to talk about this, but I don't. But that's a very, very interesting topic. And so their adoption will really help aging society, but it will also negatively impact the wages of human workers by reducing overtime pay and by amplifying risks that we are already seeing today of a more volatile employment. So those questions are questions that need to be addressed, and they all lead to one direction. We need to prepare people, we need to reskill them, we need to create equal opportunity for that massive transformation that AI is going to bring into the workplace. And of course, we also need to prepare our mind for very, very inspiring and positive opportunities, because adopting virtual and embodied intelligent assistants in 2030 will also foster the opportunities for purposeful AI to flourish in realms like well-being, self-care, personal development. So there's a lot of things, positive things to think about also to balance those risks that are systematically associated with the influence of technological change. And to conclude,
Valerie, 30-second conclusion, Valerie. We're 9 minutes over.
30 seconds, absolutely. That's my conclusion. I'd like to circle back to the future is already here. It's not just evenly distributed yet by Gibson. He clearly warned us that the future could be marked by inequalities comparable to those that exist today. So tomorrow and each day that we get closer to the future, our mission is really to ensure that the unfairness of the present is not amplified by AI or any other technological innovation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Valerie. I think that was a breathless session, I would say, and action-packed completely. And you know, we can conclude from this that right from history, we have been dreaming about intelligent machines and the way it has evolved. We are just implementing it because of our processing power, sophisticated algorithms, etc. But what is important is making it purposeful and universally beneficial, to have it more ethical, responsible, explainable parts into AI. We are going to see AI everywhere, but the way we put the intelligence into it with an ethical background, diversity, and equity and fairness is going to be the key to lead us to success. The marriage between ethics and innovation is the key to this. I think this is what we should look forward to. I'll leave you to the chat to answer the questions of people. And Vibhav, welcome, and can you give an update about the community? Thank you.